So you are here because you want to become a black belt at my TriFecta Refinance strategy, the smartest way to refinance your home. And hopefully you've watched the introduction video first, which is generalized and explains the process of how to refinance in a smart way so that you're not just adding tons of money onto what you owe and kicking the can further and further down the road and not really saving that much money. But if you want to save the most amount of money, this is how you do it. And so I'm going to go through the TriFecta Refinance here with a specific example. This is someone who's going to close soon. Now, you may be watching this video a year or 2 or 5 years from now. Rates could be completely different than what I'm showing you on here. You can see some of these documents are dated. It's early 2025. But this concept will remain. And although rates fluctuate, the concept will remain. I want you to see how it works, and I want to show you just how much money you can save if you do this the right way. Even with the small amount of refinance savings, which I consider this to be kind of the minimum amount that would make a refinance make sense, in my opinion. Now, you could save less than this and still show huge savings if you do this right. And that's what I'm going to show you today. So if you watched the first video, now you want to know, all right, how does this really work? How do we get these huge numbers? What is he accounting for? And I challenge any of the haters out there to question any of this math that I'm doing. Show me, poke a hole. Show me where it's wrong. Good luck to you. All right, so this is the situation. You'll notice that whenever we do a refinance, we're always going to ask right up front to get your mortgage statement. And so we can get all the information from your mortgage statement here that is going to be important to figuring out what the numbers are actually going to be. A couple of key things we're looking for on here: outstanding principal balance right here. Okay, how much do you owe right now, right? Your escrow balance right here. How much is in your impound account? This is part of the secret sauce right here, is understanding how that works. Remember, your current escrow balance, also referred to as an impound balance or an impound account, this is the money that's being used to pay your taxes and insurance. Well, it used to be, back in the day when common sense ruled the land, that they would just subtract that from your payoff. So instead of you having to wait for a check, instead of owing $442, I don't know if you can even see this. Make this bigger. Instead of owing $442, right, they would subtract the impound balance from the payoff. You didn't have to wait for a check. The way it works now, they send you a check for this amount. Okay, but they have 2 weeks to do so after paying it off, so you don't see that money for a little while. And but you're still going to get it long before your first payment is due on the new loan, and we're going to use that to help offset the cost of the loan. That's going to be one of our pieces of the secret sauce. Okay, and then over here on this side, so this is the current situation, right? This is the mortgage statement that we have that we're going to be working off of. And this is basically the main information that we need is right here. This is the main stuff. Now over here, this is the proposal. So this is, what the new loan is going to look like for this person. And you can see, hey, we owe $442, maybe $443. We're estimating the new loan at $450. Now, this is the problem in general of why refinancing, this is the downside to refinancing. A lot of people get the dual fecta. They get a lower rate, they get a lower payment, but they get a higher balance. And that is one of the things that means, okay, well now, how long does it take us with our monthly savings to pay back that? And that's your break-even period. Well, with the trifecta, you're not going to have a break-even period because you're literally going to trifecta means lower rate, lower payment, and a lower balance. So when you start your first payment on the new loan, you're already going to have a lower balance than you do today. And that is the reason why it's so impactful and the numbers are so crazy. Let's watch this. Here's what we're going to do. So I'm going to show you the email that I may have to open this up, actually. I just realized I may have done something stupid. Okay, here it is. All right. So this is the savings email. So when we do a savings presentation, I do it via email, and I always send it. Let me just make this a little bit bigger here so we can read it a little easier. I always send this to everybody. Same format, same structure. We go through all the numbers. So what do we look at? We look at, okay, what's your current mortgage structure? We're getting this from the mortgage statement. Hey, here's the balance of what you owe. Here's your interest rate. Here's your principal and interest payment. Here's your payment with the taxes and insurance. And then here's an important one, total cost. Total cost is important. So in other words, if you kept this loan and didn't refinance, how much are you going to pay in order to pay the loan off in the end, in the long term. And so we have to look at what the total payment is, principal and interest, right? We're not going to include taxes and insurance in this calculation because taxes and insurance you're going to have to pay even if you pay the loan off, right? You're still going to have to pay taxes and insurance on the home. So we kind of remove that from the equation because you're going to owe that regardless of whether you have a loan or what kind of loan you have. So that's not what we're impacting. We're not able to impact the taxes and insurance in the loan side. So we're taking that out of the equation. We're just going to look at what's the principal and interest amount, and then how many payments do you have left? Okay, we get that from the maturity date. So over here on the statement, we can see when the loan matures, and I can back into how many payments you have left. In this case, this individual's made 6 payments, so they have 354 payments remaining. And that means that we take the 354 number times this number right here. If you want to double check me, boom, that's the number we get. So total cost of all the remaining payments is $1,074,000 on this $442,000 balance. Now, this individual had a lower credit score before, and that's why the rate was higher than market rate today. And as you can see over here on the refi paperwork, 6.125 is where we're going to be at. So we look at the current mortgage structure, we look at the total costs remaining, and then we have to look at, okay, what are the costs to refinance? And we're going to approximate this, title and escrow fees right around $2,500 is kind of normal. For this loan size. If you have a bigger loan, it could be a little bit more, but that changes a little bit. And then what's the new impound account? Remember, you have to set up a new impound account. And this is the main thing that costs money in a refinance, assuming you're not getting screwed. A lot of banks and lenders will just tack huge fees on. They'll tell you some low rate and they'll add a bunch of huge fees, and you don't pay the fees out of pocket, so you may not notice until it's too late, and it's so bad. So just to be very, very careful out there. And by the way, as I'm saying that, we now have a solution for you in all 50 states. You can't necessarily work with me in all 50 states, but we do have a partner who works with us that works in all 50 states. So I can help you in all 50 states, run these numbers, do these calculations, and make sure that you save the most amount of money on your refinance, okay? So new impound account, that's your new impound account. Taxes and insurance need to be set up for, we're estimating $5,000 on that one. So total $7,400 here, and that's pretty safe, okay? Because we know our escrow balance right now is $4,300. So expecting it to be a little bit more, usually taxes go up. And so we're just kind of leaving a little bit of cushion there in our estimate for $5,000 and saying, all right, we're expecting the closing costs here to be $7,400. And I think that should be, pretty safe. And I think when we look at it actually over here on the actual, it was like less than that. It was less than 7,000. It was 6,900. But I'm just going to leave this like this because that's how I would do it. And so this is my proposal that I would send out before the actual, detailed disclosures that you see here on the left would have even been sent. So I'm just doing this in my normal cadence. All right, so $7,400. Now, let's look at your proposed mortgage structure. This is the refinance. Balance, new balance is going to be $450,000. This is your current balance, okay? So the amount you owe plus the closing costs and impound setup, which is all up here, right? That's where the $450 comes from. If you take that, $442, right? You add the $7,400. We're saying, hey, $450 be right around there, okay? New interest rate, 6.125. New principal and interest payment, $2,734. This is when we start to see where the savings are, right? Total payment with the taxes and insurance here. I always like to put that in there, even though we're not looking at the impounds. Total cost. Okay, so now we're going to look at our first element of savings. We saw the principal and interest payment is lower. This is what really tells you whether you have a good deal or not. Total cost. All right, so we were paying $1,074,000 for the loan with 354 payments. Now with 360 payments, we're paying $984. So that is a pretty significant savings, and we're going to do the math on that in a second, and that's what I summarize next. It's like, okay, now that we've seen where you're at, what the costs are, what the proposed structure is, what are the monthly savings, all right? In this case, $301, and I usually say, hey, right around this amount, $300 a month is a good amount. A lot of people will refinance with only saving $150 a month, and then we can still make it pencil, but for me personally, I like this number. Total cost savings, so subtraction there, $90,000. So just by doing this loan, okay, not doing the trifecta, you're going to save $300 a month, and you're going to save $90,000 over the course of the loan. So we haven't done much yet, right? Well, we're doing two things here. So we're, number one, creating a new loan that's more efficient. And then we're going to see how we can make that new loan even more efficient with additional steps. So here's what we're going to do. Now, when you do the refinance, you have 2 months essentially where you're not making a mortgage payment. And a lot of people just take that money and go to Vegas, schedule vacation, pay bills, whatever, and you can totally do that. But it's not the most efficient thing to do. The most efficient thing to do is to pretend as though you didn't refinance and to take those 2 monthly payments and set them aside. Okay, set them aside in your savings account, set them aside in your checking account, whatever, but just keep them there so that you can apply it towards the new loan before your first payment date. I'm going to show you how crazy these numbers get here in just a second. So if you take those 2 months without a payment, right? So his payment over here is $3,500, $3,577, and you take 2 of those, that's about $7,100. It's a little more than that, but again, all my estimates here are very conservative. I'm not trying to be outlandish with anything. And you take your in-pound escrow balance refund, okay, approximately $4,300, right? We got that number from over here. It was actually a little bit more than that. See how I'm always being conservative with these numbers. And we apply that total amount to the new loan before the first payment date. That total amount is this right here, and this should actually be in a different place because we reference it up here. Total amount should go right here. Total amount to the new loan before the first payment date, okay? You'll have a lower balance on the mortgage than you do right now by about $4,000, okay? So if we looked at, well, okay, we're adding, what was it up here we were adding? 7,400. So we're adding 7,400, and then we're subtracting 11,400 from the balance. So now that means that the initial loan balance, once you make this first principal payment of $11,400, you're going to owe $4,000 less on the loan before you make the first payment. This is how it's done, folks. This is how you save big money. And I haven't even shown you the big money yet. Hold up, okay? And this is not a huge savings refinance, by the way. Remember, this is kind of like a minimum savings refinance. Now you also have, so mortgage is lower, right? Lower rate, lower balance, lower rate. So you have a lower balance on the mortgage, lower rate, and a lower payment. That is the trifecta. So the rate's lower by 1 1/8, balance is lower by 4,000, payment is lower by 301. Anytime you can win on all of these, this is what I call the trifecta. Why did they make that super small? That's super weird. What's up with this? That's strange. So important note, even though, and this is something I should probably separate in this email. Important note. So even though we're starting the 30-year clock over, right? You're paying less. You're paying $90,000 less over the life of the loan. But what if we take a look at if you kept making the same payment you're making now? Let's say you're really interested in paying the home off as quickly as possible. You don't mind your current payment. Of course you want to pay less, but you really want to pay this home off sooner. You really want to be as ultra efficient as you can. Okay, well, let's take a look at that. So if you took your $301.43 in savings and applied it towards the new loan, so paid the same payment you're making now, right? This is what the result would be. It pays the loan off in 23 years and 2 months, and the total cost over the full life of the loan gets reduced by an additional $141,000. Okay? So we take that $141,000 and we add it to the $90,000. So remember, we're saving $90,000 already on the total cost just from the new loan, from the old loan. Now, inside of the new loan, we're saving $141,000. So we add the two together and it saves $232,000. How do we know? Here you go. Calculator.net has some of the coolest mortgage payment calculators imaginable. And they break this stuff down so cleanly. Let me just zoom in a little bit on this to make it easier to see. So we put in the loan amount, right? Here's the original loan. We're doing 30 years, 6 1/8. Okay, still remaining 30 years. This is a new loan. Repayment with extra payments. And you can write down, you can put in here, hey, what if I make a one-time payment? What if I make a monthly payment? What if I make a yearly payment? And you can calculate it and see what the savings are going to be. And they even give you graphs and everything. It's terrific. So we'll see here, pays off 23 years and 2 months and saves $141,715 in interest over that time. Holy crap. Humongous amount of savings. Humongous amount. Okay? Just absolutely swimming in savings in this situation. Now, what's really cool about this is this isn't even everything, because remember, we're also making a one-time payment on this guy. Now, I don't calculate it this way because I think it's just one layer too complicated. I know this is complicated. I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible, and the numbers are always going to be monstrous anyway. But I want you to know, because remember, this is the black belt class for the TriFecta Refinance method, the Evans TriFecta Refinance method. I'm going to call it that from now on. And in this class, we teach you everything. So what we have to do, what did we forget to do? The $11,400. Remember the principal reduction payment that we're making that's going to give take our balance $4,000 less than it was to begin with? We got to put that in. So $11,400 into the one time, right? And then calculate. And bam, knocks another, 13 months off of it? Knocks another 13 payments out the way. Huge savings, right? So now, instead of $141,000 in savings on this loan, we're at $175,000 in additional savings, which is, so 175, it was 141. So let's see, what's that? Another 34,000 it saves you over the life of the loan. Saves 34,000 in additional. And I don't even tell people about this part, just to try to not make it complicated, any more complicated than it is. So the numbers here are massive, and all of the numbers are taken from the exacts that are used or estimated in a very conservative way. If you apply this when you refinance, what does it do for you? Well, what it does is it makes it sort of a no-risk situation. It makes it so that you don't have any downside, because the main downside to refinancing is starting all over on the loan and having a higher loan balance. This is a hard thing to swallow sometimes whenever you go, hey, I've been paying on this for 2 years and now I'm doing a refinance, and yeah, I'm getting a lower payment, but I'm starting 30 years all over again. And I have a higher balance than when I bought the place. I feel like I'm going backwards. And that's completely legitimate thought process, because it does feel that way. And in some ways you are doing that. But if you use this method, it's never going to be a bad thing. If you get a trifecta and you can get all three of those things, lower rate, lower payment, lower balance, what's the downside? Why shouldn't you refi? Well, rates might go lower. What if rates drop in a month? Okay. If you're VA, yeah, you're locked out of refinancing for 7 months. That's true. You have 210 days from your first payment date before you can refi again. Very true. But you haven't lost anything, only potential things that you have no control over, no idea what's going to happen in the future. If you're doing conventional loan, you can refinance next month. As long as you do the trifecta, there's no downside. There's no loss to recover. It's not taking one step back to take 2 steps forward. It's just taking the 2 steps forward. That's what it is. So this is something that I'm very passionate about because I've always done it for myself. And I've started teaching my clients how to do this the past few years. Early on in my career, when I tried to explain it to people, they had a very hard time with it. And I just said, all right, I'm not going to try to explain this anymore. Everyone wanted their 2 months off, and no one cared about, this savings. And we didn't have these calculators that could give us all this information at that time. So it was more difficult. Now I feel like it's easier to understand. We have video communication. It's easier. Visuals like this, great calculators. I think it's easier now to understand it than ever. And I think more people are getting it, and I'm really excited about that. So if you're doing a refinance, make sure you do the trifecta. You'll be happy that you did. You'll be refinancing like a pro. You'll be smarter than 99% of the people out there, 99.9% of the people who refinance out there. And now we can help you in all 50 states. So if you are out there in Alaska or, wherever, doesn't matter. I can help you. I have a partner who works in all 50 states. That can help us if I can't help you in one of the states that Stonebridge has licensed in. So let me know if you have questions on this. Hopefully that's helpful. And let's save some money this time, this refi cycle. Let's not pay points. Let's not bloat up your loan amounts. Let's not borrow tons of money that we don't need. Let's go ahead and save some money. Let's put a dent in this sucker. And let's pay the banks as little as possible.